Hey everyone, my name's Sincere.
Hey, my name is Darren.
Welcome to a Different World podcast at the Historic Central High School. I'm here with.
Cameron.
Starsky.
Okay. What made y'all want to go to Howard?
Well, I bowl, and so Howard was one of the few HBCUs that had a women's bowling team, like a collegiate one that's actually a part of the NCAA, and it's not just a club sport. And then also, I'm a nursing major, and Howard has a really good nursing program, and so those two paired together with it being an HBCU made it my top choice.
For me, it largely came down to what school fit best for me. So I knew I wanted to major in business, and I also knew I wanted to go to a HBCU. And of the schools I applied to and got accepted to, Howard was the best HBCU for my major, and I felt right at home when I went on visits and whatnot.
Okay. What was it like applying there? Like the difficulty level.
So I would say for Howard, as far as applying, the only issue I really had, or the only thing that concerned me was my GPA. So the average GPA at Howard for a Howard applicant was like a 3.5 or like a 3.6, and I had a 3.35. So what I did there was I just ensured that everything else about my application was strong. So I made sure my test scores were good. I did the ACT and the SAT. I made sure my essay was good. And I made sure I detailed like extracurriculars I was in. So varsity sports. I was in Kappa League. I was in Jack and Jill of America, so like youth leadership organizations. And I really just centered my my application around that.
For me, it was pretty chill. I think the part that I struggled with the most was probably the essays, just because I have a hard time like articulating myself in words, especially since like the word counts for your essays aren't that big, and so you have to fit everything you want to say in like such a short span. And so I think that was the most difficult part. But like Starsky said, just making sure everything else in my application was sound. Like I made sure I included all of my like community involvement things I did in school, clubs. I made sure my grades were on point and things like that.
Okay. What are the dorms like there?
So I'll speak on my dorm specifically. So I live in College Hall South as a freshman. It's considered upperclassmen housing, but because of the influx of freshmen, that more freshmen are starting to stay there. It's co-ed. It's one of the newer buildings, so I really like it. As far as like other freshman housing, we have two all-male, all-freshman dorms. That'll be Drew Hall and Cook Hall. And then we also have an all-freshman girls dorm. Two all-freshman girls dorms. We have College Hall North, and we have the Harriet Tubman Quadrangle, what we call the Quad. So that's like communal style, and then CHN, that's like you have your own bathroom.
I stay in Bethune Annex, which is probably one of the oldest dorms on campus. You can definitely tell when you go in there, like everything just looks like slightly outdated, but they're trying to fix it up and things. I think the dorm is nice for how old it is. Yeah.
Okay. How are your living expenses there compared to where you're originally from?
You got it.
Okay. So I'm from Chicago, and so everything is a little pricey there. So going to D.C. is kind of like a similar thing. Like everything is a little more on the pricier side, especially since we're in the capital, and so it's a lot of tourism and things. And so, like to get money, they upcharge on a lot of stuff. And so things definitely are expensive, but I'm not too shocked just because like Chicago is similar.
And I actually live close to DC already. I live in Potomac, Maryland. So obviously, like, price point is kind of similar there, but you definitely feel it more as a college student because you're the one who has to live and like pay for like groceries, things like that, like Ubers and whatnot. So you definitely feel it. So it's just something you have to kind of be mindful of. Just be more intentional about budgeting and saving.
Yes, sir. What's the best area that y'all would say that's on your campus? Like the best area to hang out at?
Like socially? Early on, we had this area called the Valley. There are like a lot of parties and like things happening there. Different social clubs will have their pro base, their pop outs. But I'd say largely like where the most activity happens would be on the yard or in the undergraduate library. Like people like to hang out, study, do stuff there. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I would also say the yard just because there's always things going on up there. Like when it's hot outside, they have a lot of different pop-ups. Like they had a Pretty Little Things pop-up, a Coach outlet pop-up, and so we also have like club fairs. People sell their merchandise from their businesses on the yard, and so it's always just a lot of activity going on, whether like it's cold or it's warm outside.
Nice to know.
You got any other questions?
How is it applying there? Like applying? Y'all did?
Yeah. Let me think. So what made y'all want to pick Howard besides any other college?
So like I said, it really came down to, for the most part, like Howard being the best for my major. But also, when I used to live in St. Louis, Missouri, I had friends through Jack and Jill and otherwise who had gone to Howard, and they told me about their experience there. So I actually have a friend there who's a junior now. She's majoring in political science, and me and her had kept in contact all throughout her time at Howard. And she just telling me about like how great it was, and just kind of like being like my little personal Howard like ambassador. So yeah, she really sold me on it.
Yeah, for me, it really just came down to when I made a pros and cons list, the pros outweighed the cons, like at Howard and at like any other school that I had, because like I wanted to go to school in an urban city since I'm from one, check. It had a women's bowling team, check. It was an HBCU, check. It had a good nursing program, check. And then the finances, fortunately, aligned with that, and so it allowed me to go there.
Okay. How would you say the tuition is? Like, is it high, low?
So I definitely say like Howard being a private school, the price definitely gets up there. As far as tuition alone, I think it's around 28, close to like the $29,000 range, and then total cost of attendance was about $55,000. So I would really like want to place an emphasis if you want to go to Howard. Try to like put in an application early action, get accepted as soon as possible, so you get that first pool of money, and then as well apply for like scholarships outside of the school as well. So like whether that's, I know a lot of churches get scholarships, youth leadership organizations, and then just don't be afraid to write essays for scholarships too. And the thing about those, you can use the same essay for multiple different scholarships. So I definitely recommend doing that to help mitigate some of the costs.
Yeah, I agree. Like Starsky said, tuition is definitely expensive. I think mine this year was probably like $32,000, and my cost of attendance, because it varies, depending on like what meal plans you have, what dorms you stay in, because each of those things have different prices, which will affect your cost of attendance like as a whole. Because cost of attendance isn't just tuition; it's room and board, meal plans, transportation, because we have on-campus shuttle buses. So I think my overall cost of attendance was probably like $53,000. But also, like he said, scholarships. Like apply for them, even if you think they're small, even if you think they're not gonna give you nothing. Like still apply for them, because that money can start to add up, and it can really knock down those costs.
Okay. You got any other questions? No. Okay. Last question. So, what would you say be your favorite part about Howard?
Honestly, my favorite part about Howard is honestly the diversity. I know a lot of people like to think like HBCUs, it's gonna be just like a lot of black people. There is no diversity, but there's a lot of diversity amongst the black diaspora, and also what I think people understate is diversity of thought. Like these are people from all across the world. These are people from all across the country, different socioeconomic backgrounds. So you really like you're meeting a lot of different types of people, even though a lot of us are, black.
For me, it would be the social scene. I'm a big social person, and so like once I get my work done and finish my work, like I want to go out, I want to have fun, and I think Howard does a good job of that. Like the university itself providing like social things that we can do, like we have movies on the yard, like I said, the pop-ups and things. We even have like field days almost, because I know like I think last year they brought out like a bouncy house or like an obstacle course, like a blow up obstacle course, and so that's fun. And also just the people at Howard, like they're really welcoming and nice, and like you don't have to know everybody to speak or talk or even make friends here. So
Okay, sounds good. Well, that's the end, and yeah, thank y'all for coming out.
All right, thank you for having us.
you.
Good. How you doing?